You know, ever since Nintendo made Zelda a playable character, I've noticed fans clamoring for the final member of the Triforce to be added to the shortlist as an ally. But would a playable Ganondorf in a mainline Zelda game work? And if so, could he be a good guy? Like Tears of the Kingdom's map, this has layers, as I've seen this topic discussed in a couple of different variations. It usually goes something like this. 1. People want a playable Ganondorf for the sole reason of playing as Ganondorf. 2. Ganondorf is bad but is eventually redeemed. And 3. Ganondorf is a good guy and works with Link and Zelda to overcome some evil force in Hyrule. So let's assume playable Ganondorf is like playable Zelda. He is a main character in his own story. If that's the case, the problem with point 1 relative to points 2 and 3 is that it is an exercise in ill-conceived energy tennis. No matter which end you're on, someone is going to have a bad time. What I mean is, if Ganondorf is the main character, he has to win, doesn't he? In which case, that means Zelda and Link must lose, right? If they even have to be there at all. At the very least, Hyrule must lose. How would a game like that relate to the rest of the series? Does it have to? Would Ganondorf's game and his conquest lead into a sequel where Link and Zelda rise up and undo what he's done? Is that compelling? The opposite end of the energy tennis court would mean sacrificing Ganondorf's character, whether he's playable or not. The first hurdle is his archetype. He is the embodiment of corrupted power of the Tyrant King. Secondly, he is imprisoned by the franchise's own lore. Not that that could ever stop Nintendo, but if we assume the lore will remain consistent, Ganondorf is literally hatred incarnate. To have him come to some realization about his own thievery or evilness, or to embody the positive aspects of kingliness, being redeemed or good guy Ganondorf would be direct betrayals of his character. I don't think either of these avenues are right for the mainline series and would dilute the Ganondorfs that had come before. All that said, I still think there are ways to make him interesting as a villain. Ganondorf's charm up until Tears of the Kingdom was that he was the same person in 2 different timelines, and given different circumstances, ended up with different motivations. He can be understood without being sympathetic, a trope to which he doesn't need to adhere to still be captivating. He can covet freedom for his people, if that reasoning can be trusted, and still usurp a throne and uppercut a child. He can be thwarted but avoid death by squeezing a sage to dust and becoming a cult leader to a temperamental man-child. However, in one of Tears of the Kingdom's biggest missteps, we could have learned more about him through other members of the Gerudo tribe. Instead, we're told about Ganondorf by Ganondorf, about how a king must rule, but why does he feel this way? Having a game with a defected Gerudo companion, giving us insights into Ganondorf's motivations, could deepen his character. Further, consider a game where a different Gerudo male is born and proclaimed king, and he has to contend with the bloody history of his tribe, atoning by destroying a different evil with Link and Zelda. On the flip side, a story that starts with Ganondorf working alongside Link and Zelda could show his gradual but inevitable descent into evil, coming to his own misguided conclusions before masterminding a betrayal from within at the direst hour. The game starts by building trust with a good guy Ganondorf who in the end seeks power only for his own sake, leaning more to his warlocking, his deception. To me, these are all more favorable and true to Ganondorf's character than simply redeeming him or making him a good guy, even if he were a flawed one. Fortunately, Nintendo doesn't seem to be too keen on swapping protagonists simply because they can, so I don't see Ganondorf being playable, let alone resembling a good guy in any future mainline Zelda title. But as far as spin-offs, anything goes, and I definitely play a game with a young Ganondorf in the Gerudo Desert, claiming the respect of his people, growing in power and recklessness, eventually crushing those who oppose him. But until then, we'll always have Smash. What would you like to see in the next iteration of Ganondorf?